come round the corner for the first extension, which just has to shimmer with power. But having done that, they've got to hold this incredible balance. So it's this sort of this amazing balance of calibrated ideas, and you just can't have one thought for any other person in the world other than your horse and yourself. And if you don't have an amazing support team, then you're worried about the fact that the curb chain might be on too tight, or that the horse hasn't been platted properly, or that the horse hasn't needs shoeing, or the horse should have 4 weeks ago actually been getting an extra 15 minutes a day. And as soon as you have those thoughts, you're finished. It's so having a really good support crew around you either makes or breaks you.
Yeah. Owned by Heath and Rosie Ryan and by Dr. Evans. Margaret Evans bred this horse in Europe, and it's wonderful to see him come up through the ranks as he has. And with Heath being that consummate showman, they suit one another. Ricardo loves to be expressive and really show himself, and sometimes a little too much. And I know yesterday in the Inter 2 he was a little bit over the top, a little bit keen, and I know that Heath has had him out walking and relaxing and chilling him out a little bit, and we'll see if he can keep a little lid on his excitement today. And an expressive extended trot, but you can see perhaps the tempo is a little bit quick. Heath has a wonderful way of riding half pass and showing a lot of flexion and bend. And the rhythm and the regularity in this is wonderful. Watch for the change of flexion, bending right and over. Very good. The judges will be really pleased with this. This is easy to mark. You don't scratch your head and look for mistakes. You can just get a very good general impression feeling and put your mark down fairly easy, and I'm sure this will be scoring a higher scale. I think sometimes perhaps Heath's high hands are a little bit distracting, and maybe make it look like he's helping the horse a little too much with the reins. But in actual fact, I think it's just one of Heath's trademarks, and I don't think that's the fact. Again, this horse has amazing piaffe and passage, but here you can see the right foreleg drops back all the time instead of coming up and equal, and that's why the transition out was like that. He doesn't think totally forward in his mind and his body in the passage with both front legs and hind legs equal. A little exaggerated in the transition from passage to extended. It's like passage, collected trot, almost halt, and then extended walk. And the transition should be much smoother, more open and more flowing. All the walking he's done has obviously helped. The horse is very relaxed and looks very content. It's time to have a bit of a look around even and not get worried. Sometimes horses can try too hard and concentrate too hard and get in front of the rider a little bit and make the rider's job really hard, but he looks very much today like he's waiting for the aids. A little bit behind the bit, a little bit coming behind the bridle in the transition, but super passage until I said, and decided to put in a couple of hop steps. Better transitions this time. Now the passage is more regulated. It gives you a good feeling that it could keep going, and then unfortunately for Heath, a little slip, an important transition, a little transition, but a big mark, and he struck off on a wrong leg, and it was a little bit untidy, a little bit similar to his passage extended walk transition, just not flowing and smooth. Again, perhaps the tempo gets a little bit quick. If it would just take a little more time in the air, but still very good changes of flexion, the right sequence and the right counting. an event rider, I'm sure the extended canter comes as a bit of a light relief for Heath. I get the impression that that change slipped through a little bit in front of the rider's aids. I think he's starting to get a little bit wise, like stallions do, and he said, "I know, we just collect and change," and didn't really wait for Heath enough. I get the impression from the side that the horse's quarters are a little bit swinging left and right. I like to see them very straight, so if you stood in front of them, they just keep coming straight at you, not swinging about. So a little bit, even though the sequence is correct, it should remain absolutely straight. We'll have a look and see in the ones if we get the same feeling. And you can see the sway with the hind legs from left to right. He's drifting quite to the left as well, and you can see he finished his line a little early of the marker. Unfortunately, those are costly marks. It's not just to produce a Grand Prix test to do all the tricks. You've got to be able to have the horse totally under control, submissive, and absolutely on your aids and on your line. And this is the hardest thing. Super pirouettes. I know in the past this horse has been able to get 8s and 9s for canter pirouettes, and with coefficient marks, this is where you make up ground. Let's have a look at this one. The high leg should be almost on the spot. A little bit big, but super sitting. You can see him bend his hind legs and his rump come lower and take the weight, which enables him to bring the forehand up and around. These pirouettes both show wonderful promise and will get good marks. Again, a lovely picture, and if you took still photos of this horse doing extended trot, I'm sure it would be great. But the thing that spoils it for the highest of marks is that the tempo is a little quick. It needs a little more what we call cadence, that little lift off the ground. And again, the passage. Heath has great hopes for this horse at Grand Prix, especially with his ability to piaffe and passage. Look at this for wonderful, super balanced piaffe. And now it's really, really good, like fantastic piaffe. And the same in the transitions. Halfway through the piaffe, the dropping the neck a little bit will cause the judge to come a little down in the mark, just a tiny bit. And we'll have a look at the hold. Really square, but he lets him put his head down too low. The horse should stay on the bit with his pole the highest point in the halt. And for the judge at the front, it's very clear that, and that's an easy mark that he could have picked up. Especially with a little tendency a couple of times during the test for him to want to drop his pole and put his chin on his chest. He should have halted at the end with a very good feeling of him being uphill. I think he relaxed his mind a little bit coming to the halt, thinking it's over. The test isn't over until you get back to the stables, really. Everyone's watching you. It's important you walk out of the arena on a long rein with a good impression. Good marks. And it will be very interesting to see if it's in front of Rosie. Very close. This horse, Northern Hector, is ridden by Blas Largo, who originated with all his training of Grand Prix horses in Spain and is now in Australia producing horses to Grand Prix. This is a really large horse. I know everyone sits on the edge of their seats a little bit because the last competition, Blas unfortunately had a big mental block like any rider can have and got lost and could not continue on the test. It was a great disappointment for him and selectors and everyone involved in the horse, I'm sure, but these things happen. You can see the power in this horse compared to some of the others. I'm sure his extended trot scores very high marks. Perhaps a little bit the frame is the problem why this horse doesn't score exceptionally high marks, but you can see the power and the thrust that this horse has. Again in the half pass, perhaps a little more cadence. It's just the rhythm, or the tempo I should say, has become a little quick. Could just look like he takes a little bit more time with each trot step. And this way, not totally regular. You need to see a very distinct rhythm like this. So at the end of the half pass, it's always good to see, is the rhythm the same in the trot as it is when the horse finishes a half pass and trots along the short side. Again, that really expressive, free, extended trot. And now the passage. Very powerful in the passage. And for me, I think this horse has an exceptional talent for Piaffe. You can see the lowering of the hindquarters. Unfortunately, a little jump step together behind will bring his mark down a little bit. Again, the transition out to passage wasn't as smooth as it could be. Straight from passage to extended walk. And again, we mentioned the frame earlier, and again here you can see that he really needs to stretch his neck a little more down. Walk has plenty of purpose, not a huge overtrack, but still needs to be a little bit more relaxed through the neck and the back. Shorten the steps into collected. And then we look for a very clean transition from the walk to passage. And there is a mark purely for this transition. And here, it's good now, regulated passage, but in the first step, or the first two steps, probably weren't quite as expressive as could be. Again, this horse's absolute forte is his Piaffe. You can see how straight he is, doesn't sway from one side to the other, and the transitions are very direct. Again, this little hesitant, snappy inside hind leg like this will cause a few lower marks in that passage section. The regularity and the rhythm is of the utmost importance. Began a little bit with the quarters in the first half pass. It's something that can easily happen if you lose a little concentration in the corner. And he really ran out of a bit of room at the end. The half passes perhaps could show a little bit more collection so that he finishes a little earlier on the centre line and takes a little more time with the last change. Again, the extended canter, collected canter flying change. The flying change should really be the last step of the line of the diagonal. He was a little bit going around the corner when he did the change. Now the twos. Very correct sequence, not quite to the mark at M, and perhaps a little bit obvious with the rein aids in the changes. The horse could perhaps be a little bit lighter and a little bit more in self-carriage. Just looks perhaps a little dull at times in the hand. (15-1s). Again, there's the marker there that he should have gone to, so a little inaccuracy with his line, and all these things really add up to taking the marks away. You just can't afford to ride inaccurate lines at this level. And again, the canter pirouette shows good promise. The flying change a little bit against the bridle, a little bit leaning forward in the change. And this pirouette perhaps a little bigger than the first one and maybe a little bit jumping out with the hind leg, but still along the right lines. Transition to trot. Clear and clean transition. Now finish with his big extended trot. Super steps. Much better line. And then down the centre line for what probably blasts us thinking, thank goodness he didn't get lost this time. No deduction in marks for errors, of course. And he can finish really showing off his Passage and Piaffe tour. You can see that the expression that this horse shows, the freedom of the front legs, the regularity with the high leg stepping well under, and in the Piaffe the same. Very much on the spot, very good rhythm, and it looks easy for the horse, and Blas isn't looking like he has to ride too strongly to keep it in Piaffe. This is the look you need to see. Again, a little bit stepping short with the left hind. The judges from the side will see that, but not from the front. And the halt square and established. I'm sure Blas will be very relieved that test is over. No hesitation about making a mistake in his remembering the test. And I'm sure Northern Hector looks very pleased with himself as well. This horse shows great promise. He's a very big, powerful horse. And for such a big and powerful horse, he shows really good balance and a fantastic Piaffe and Passage tour. And I'm sure we'll see a lot more. This horse has improved in his percentages over the last couple of years. And I'm sure he's got a lot more improvement yet to do. So Blas will be really pleased. The first horse you rode today, Brett, was the Brown Stallion, or Black Stallion, Whisper 4, owned by Kerry Mack. And he's a pretty exciting horse, and everyone loves him and thinks he's great and expressive. How did you feel your Inter 2 went today?
Well, the warm-up wasn't so good today. Excuse me, with the bit of wind around and a bit of cool breeze made him a little bit fresh, and he was getting a little bit too excited. Excited about the work, but got into the ring and he settled into it. Wasn't the smoothest test. I haven't had him back that long. He's been on breeding duties for the last 3 months, but he's just come back into work, and we're looking to work forward for the rest of the year, and hopefully have a big end to the year. I mean, the Inter 2, as much as it's a great competition, is really a warm-up for the Grand Prix, and I just tried to fix a few little things that were giving me some grief at the end of last year. For example, in the pirouettes, he was wanting to really get behind my leg and spin quick, so I wanted to try and fix that in the ring. And in the ones in the warm-up he's very good. In the ones he wants to get a little behind the bit and come behind my leg. So I just rode him a bit forward and lost count. And
one of those momentary lapses. It's certainly a full-time job. It's really to ride through an Inter 2 with a stallion like that in atmosphere and a bit of wind and so on. The concentration level on your part, do you notice other things outside, or?
Mainly he picks things up outside. I'm more focused on him, but I'll see him see something, and then I'll be a bit distracted. And stallions are hard things to get around the ring. They really do lose concentration, and yeah, they're like men, really. They're like us.
Halt not quite established, but you can see the expression this horse has in the trot. Amazing trot, really good front legs off the ground, hind legs clearing the ground and underneath, and the extended trot, just wonderful steps. Internationally, 8s and 9s are often given to this horse for extended trot, and today it's no exception. It's a very good balanced feeling, very elastic and loose. He looks like a true gymnast. The half pass left. He looks well to the direction he's going. Keeps the rhythm, but not quite to E. He didn't start quite early enough and didn't quite get the sideways enough, and so he's going to have a little struggle with the steep angles required in this test to get back. And again, not quite centered, not quite symmetrical. You can't, as a rider, be off the job for 1 minute. Again, an extended trot. Just check this out. Just the most wonderful feeling. Into the Passage. A few mistakes in the rhythm, not establishing a super tempo, and again into Piaffe. Again, you get the feeling that it's not really established. Lots of expression, lots of enthusiasm, but not quite contained. Not fulfilling the promise and the honesty. The walk has a huge overtrack. You can see how far the hind legs go past the front legs, but when you look at a walk, there should be a clear V from the hind cannon bone to the front cannon bone as the hind leg hits the ground towards the front foot. And occasionally you can see that this V doesn't really get established. His walk mark will be a little down. The sequence of the steps aren't quite clear enough. A little hop into the transition to Passage, but well established. Shows great promise. A little drifting, you can see he goes a little offline, a little to the left, not quite straight. But of course the judges that decide on him wouldn't see that. That's why there's 5 judges. side judges and front judges, you don't get away with anything. Again, the canter shows great expression. It's such a beautiful frame and very uphill look. 4, 5, 6, and you can see the change of flexion, and Brett rides this movement so well. The flexion and then the change and sideways, and the flexion, change, good. Yeah, this will score well. Extended. And again, a great uphill feeling with his front legs coming way out in front of his hind legs active and underneath, and a transition back to the shorter steps before the change. This is international marks. This horse is making some super progress. The twos. And how many riders would aspire to ride a line of twos like that? Brett is such a well-centered rider. His centre of balance is always wonderful, and his sense of timing absolutely innate. He has an amazing feel. And I wonder what Brett's thinking coming here to the centre line, to his bogey, the canter pirouettes, where he tried to help the horse yesterday.